Today we are going to be discussing those woulda, coulda, shoulda moments of our life and how we can learn to really take charge and not feel held back by our negative past experiences. So, this session was inspired and adapted by the book Woulda, Coulda, Shoulda by Dr. Arthur Freeman and Rose DeWolf. So, Dr. Freeman, he was a world renowned expert in the field of cognitive behavioral therapy, and Rose DeWolf was a Philadelphia journalist who specialized in taking complex concepts and kind of transcribing or translating them to a highly relatable and useful way. So, with their powers combined through this book and this webinar, we can begin to overcome our past regrets, mistakes, and missed opportunities. Most of us have moments we wish we could redo. So today we are going to explore how kind of our own thinking can trap us in those regretful feelings and how we can move from woulda, coulda, shoulda into learning some self-compassion and giving ourselves room for growth. So here are our session objectives for today. What is this woulda, coulda, shoulda trap? What are the patterns or some distortions that feed our feelings of regret? And what are some steps that we can take for unblocking the past? And finally, we will close today's session with offering tips to move forward with compassion. So let's start off with our first objective and understand what each of these words mean and how they can stick us in kind of a mental sticky trap. So, the woulda, coulda, shoulda trap is the psychological habit of dwelling on past mistakes, those missed opportunities, or hypothetical alternative scenarios. And they can really lead us into feelings of regret, guilt, and just a cycle of unproductive what if thinking that prevents any forward progress. The trap aspect comes from how this type of thinking becomes a cycle. Constantly thinking about how you would have acted differently kind of keeps you stuck reliving those past choices and can cause significant emotional pain and stagnation. So the would have, these are our would haves. This represents that idealized past choices. I would have succeeded if my boss hadn't changed the project deadline or if I hadn't gotten stuck in some negative thought. We have the could haves, the could haves, and this represents our missed opportunities of past events. I could have chosen a different career path if I hadn't been so afraid of failure. Our shouldas, and these are our should haves, and this represents our ties to self blame or guilt. I should have spoken up in that meeting. I should have taken a stand. Everyone must think I have no ideas or I'm not putting forth anything to this team effort. So together, they form this loop of regret that keeps us emotionally anchored to the past, wishing things were different instead of learning from them. And these thoughts can quickly lead us to thoughts of anxiety, perfectionism, and that continued stagnation. It's not the event itself that causes our pain of regret, but instead our interpretation of it. So, our thoughts about the past shape how we feel in the present and what we believe we're capable of in the future. So, even though we cannot erase a setback or a loss that has already occurred, you can change the influence that any given setback or loss has had on your life. So, the goal here that Dr. Freeman brings up is to escape this woulda, coulda, shoulda trap, is to shift from rumination thinking to reflection thinking, or, really trying to extract lessons from our past experiences. And that's our first step here on escaping this woulda, coulda trap that we can often, and some of you daily even, might find yourself in. So, through the remaining three objectives, we can learn to escape that trap to lead to a more positive life inside and out of the workplace. So, let's dive now into the different sorts of thinking patterns that feed and kind of distort our regrets. So, in the book, Dr. Freeman introduces the idea of cognitive distortions from cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. And this theory suggests that regret based thinking is a learned habit, and it can be unlearned using structural cognitive techniques. So these regret-based thinking habits are those that really kind of exaggerate or exacerbate these mistakes, really minimize the successes that we actually have in certain situations, or they can end up twisting how we interpret events that have happened. The four most common that he goes over in the book are all or nothing thinking, and that is seeing things in black and white, leaving no gray area to interpret. If I'm not perfect, I'm a complete failure. If I didn't do it perfectly, that's it. I failed. There's no gray area there. He introduces catastrophizing, and that's expecting the worst case scenario to happen. Now, if I mess up on this webinar, oh man, I'm definitely getting fired. That one mistake just absolutely ruined everything. He has should statements, and that's really putting extra pressure on yourself or others, criticizing with very strict rules. I should have known better. I should never make mistakes. And that's just more unrealistic than anything else. And then there is personalization. So believing that you are the sole cause of external negative events. The team or project failed because I wasn't good enough. It's all my fault it went wrong, not taking into anything else that could have happened in that situation. So the first step here of overcoming all of these negative thoughts is to acknowledge how you feel. One of the main points that Dr. Freeman brings up is in the book is it is okay to feel regret. It's a very natural emotion for us humans to understand. I think we all kind of can overanalyze our own situations, but really try to give yourself permission to feel those emotions, but don't let them define you. Dr. Freeman, notes here, trying to write down your thoughts and feelings. He mentions that journaling can be a very powerful tool for processing our emotions and kind of gaining some clarity in them. And I think Emily mentioned it in the chat here. Visit the past, but you don't have to build a house there. It's okay to visit the house. It's okay to spend some vacation time there and take some life lessons out of it, but try not to set up residence there. So the point that Dr. Freeman is making here is that once we can see the distortion that we internalize on the most, we can then begin to challenge it and change it. So awareness is the first step into breaking free of that woulda, coulda, shoulda trap. Really labeling and naming the distortion aloud can help to reduce its grip on our brains. Simply saying out loud, oh, that's catastrophizing, or heck, I'm personalizing that situation again. It engages your prefrontal cortex and lowers the emotional intensity of what we are feeling. And once that emotional intensity is lowered, that can leave room for us to move on to our third objective and unblock the past for our future growth. So regret doesn't have to keep us stuck. We can break free of that trap by reusing By using reframing strategies from cognitive behavioral theory, you can turn regretful thoughts into opportunities for learning and for positive change. And I want to give you one tool here. It's a practical step-by-step process, which can help, especially when we're having these negative feelings. Having a step-by-step process can really help. So we have the 3 C's framework. Regret often can feel like the solid truth. And this technique here really slows down the process, trying to turn those automatic thoughts into a hypothesis that we can then test and even rewrite. So the first step here is to catch it. And we covered this in objective 2. This is stopping the thought in its track and naming that distortion. So start by honestly recognizing and naming the regretful thought or feeling. And this step, it's important to be truthful with yourself and try to leave the judgment out of it. It's all about the honesty. So for example, I should have nailed that interview. I'm such a failure. And here we have catastrophizing for sure. Next, we need to check it. We need to really interrogate that distortion, asking yourself if the thought is accurate or even helpful. Look for evidence or even perspectives that support or contradict it, and then consider any other alternative perspective. Is it true that I failed completely, or did I just get stuck on one question? And does beating myself up about that interview help me improve for a future interview? So this is when we're really kind of breaking down that distortion and trying to glean any lessons that we can learn from it. And finally, we can change it. So we can reframe that distortion into a balanced and an actionable thought. Identify what we can learn from the experience by focusing on insights or skills that we can carry forward, rather than dwelling on that one mistake. I prepared well for this interview, but I got nervous. I can learn from this to be calmer next time, maybe come prepared with some notes. One interview doesn't define my career. So I want to walk through a quick example with you guys in that chat window here on the 3 C's framework. So here we have our original thought. I should have spoken up during that meeting. Everyone must think I'm not well informed. So our first thought here, we have to catch it. We have to name that distortion. What kind of distortion do you think this person has in this thought? Personalization or should statement? Yeah, and you can kind of see these distortions can team up on us. They can kind of gang up on us. So here I thought, and there's no right or wrong answer because these distortions do kind of flow together. Here I was thinking, catastrophizing in that should statement, where it's that hard, everyone must think I'm not well informed. So we have to notice that disappointment and wish to have contributed more. Absolutely. So now that we have a name for our distortion, how do we check it? Is it a fact or my fiction? Yep. I love that phrasing. You guys are wonderful. Give ourselves some grace. Is it really correct or is it just me? Am I the problem? Yeah, absolutely, guys. Is it true that 1 or 2 missed comments ruins my value as an employee? Eh, probably not. It's just us here getting stuck in our own head. Absolutely. So we don't get caught in this distortion again. How can we take this, check it, and move it into an actionable step for moving forward? What are some ideas to change it? Leave the negativity, move past it, learn from it. Yeah. Step out in faith. Yeah. Especially if we're on a team that we feel comfortable with, someone's going to catch us. We can take that step. Ask questions. Yeah, absolutely. Realize that you want to be more prepared next time. Maybe jot down some talking points before future meetings. Absolutely. So we can then take that regretful thought and prepare for the next time. So perfect. Next time, speak up and ask about the subject to understand it better. Yeah, and there's maybe we actually don't have all of the answers. There's zero shame in asking questions. Yeah, be prepared for any questions or problems. Wonderful. So Miss Josie now is going to upload a handout for you to download and utilize whenever you need. Because again, these things can be applied at any point. So the first page here gives a breakdown of the 3 C's with an example to kind of walk you through this second page. So this is a page that you can make copies of, print out as many times as you need. But you can fill it out to really start to dissect your past regrets and change them into a positive future change. You can hopefully utilize this resource during the next time you encounter a regretful thought to kind of disrupt that negative thinking and replace it with healthier, balanced alternatives, ultimately fostering a positive behavioral change and better mental well-being. So that second page walks you through the 3 C's with some additional steps to really start to process some feelings and emotions. So Dr. Freeman in the book really suggests, and it's a little easier said than done, but he says, try not to positive think your way out of your regretful thoughts and feelings. The aim with unblocking the past is more realistic thinking. The goal for unblocking the past is for accuracy in the future, not just to make yourself feel better in the present. And finally, our last objective, and my favorite objective for this session. So here we will focus on embracing self-forgiveness, letting go of self-criticism, and building a practical plan for lasting change. This is your opportunity to turn insight into action and move forward with greater kindness towards yourself. So self-compassion really means treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend in a similar situation. Reminding yourself, really taking time to remind yourself that you are doing the best you can with the knowledge and resources you had at the time. For example, if you make a mistake, and we all do, remind yourself that everyone slips up at times and you deserve patience and care as you continue to learn and grow. Forgiveness is about releasing yourself and others from the burden of past mistakes. Now, this doesn't mean completely forgetting or excusing, but rather choosing to move forward. For instance, forgiving yourself for a missed opportunity allows you to focus on what you can do differently next time. So here, really making sure that you make the time for mindfulness breaks and celebrating yourself. And we have a handful of mindfulness break tips and exercises on our professional development website that you can access anytime. And if one of my teammates would love to post that link in the chat window, I would be most appreciative. Journaling or writing a compassion letter to yourself provides a simple, structured way to identify, evaluate, and modify unhelpful thoughts, leading to a reduced emotional distress, improved coping, and healthier responses. And it can give you, you can get all of those brain thoughts onto paper and give yourself a visual reminder, especially that compassion letter to yourself, I think is a really wholesome way to remind yourself that you are worth it and it's okay. Another great technique is called butterfly hugs. Butterfly hugs, it's a very simple, self-soothing technique using rhythmic bilateral tapping, much like a butterfly's wing, to calm the nervous system, reduce anxiety and stress, can help process emotions, and really improve self-compassion through shifting your focus from distressing thoughts to physical sensations. But this is a very simple one. So you cross your hands, make it look like a butterfly. You cross your thumbs and place them over your heart on your sternum. And then just take some deep breaths. You can soften or close your eyes and then just alternate tapping your shoulder area. You can do this from a minute, 3 minutes, however long you need to really calm your nervous system. It's a very discreet way to do this. So I think it can be very helpful in moving from a distressing situation to calming yourself. You can really start to assess those emotions. So, self compassion and forgiveness, they're more than just feelings. They really lay the groundwork for taking positive steps in your life. So, when you approach yourself with understanding, you're going to be more likely to try new things, learn from your mistakes, and respond to challenges with resilience. So, turning compassion into action is really what kind of can create some real and lasting positive change. So we are going to upload, just for a visual reminder for you guys, if you need it, another handout that you can keep on hand for an easy reference or an easy reminder for yourself during difficult times of regretful feelings. This handout offers a few examples of compassionate, self-compassionate phrases that will help to remain free of the woulda, coulda, shoulda trap. So it reframes the wouldas into I wills. It can morph those couldas into I cans, and it changes those shouldas into I shalls. And I left you space at the bottom of this handout too for you to jot down your favorite phrases, to always have them nearby and to have a positive visual representation of your positive forward motion. So hopefully, between all of our self-compassion ideas paired with the handout, we can all remember to be a little bit kinder to ourselves, especially in times of self-guilt and regret. So on that positive note, we've covered all of our objectives for this session, but I do want to leave you with a quote from Dr. Freeman's book that really kind of resonated with me during my research. You can't start the next chapter of your life if you keep rereading the last one. So the truth is, we can't change what's behind us, but we can shape what's ahead. So really having that keeping it in the forefront of your mind of breaking the cycle of woulda, coulda, shoulda. It does take time and effort, but it is possible. By acknowledging your feelings, focusing on the present, practicing our self-compassion, and learning from your past, you can pave the way for a brighter future. And every step you take is a meaningful part of your journey towards lasting change.